You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Tiffany's Take, where I answer your questions right here on the podcast. Now, if you want your question answered, just go to www.moneytalkwitht.com/Ask Tiffany, and I will be more than happy to answer for you. Also on the website, I have a lot more information. So I have a whole bunch of blog articles and things, and especially on the topic that I plan on talking about today. So first and foremost, let me just say, y'all, I apologize for last Tuesday's episode. It sounded horrible, and I realized after the fact that I didn't have my good mic on. So hopefully this week sounds better, but I felt so bad that your listening experience wasn't optimal last week. So I apologize for that, but let's go ahead and hop in. So this morning, I actually had a doctor's appointment, and as I was sitting in the chair, I'm recording this on Monday, to get my blood drawn, the phlebotomist asked me, "What do you do for a living?" So of course, when I said, "Oh, I do financial counseling," everybody always hits me with their money questions, right? So he started asking me as he was drawing my blood, and you're probably like, "Well, Tiffany, it doesn't take long to draw your blood." They had to draw like 15 vials. I kid you not. It was a lot because they're trying to figure out what's going on. But anyway, as he was drawing my blood, he was like, "Well, Tiffany, what do you think about 401ks?" And so I thought that this would be a great conversation to have on the podcast, because as I was telling him, some information about his specific situation, he was just like, "Oh, okay. So I figured it was good information. So anyway, let's get right into it. When you are thinking about your 401k at your job, first of all, keep in mind that any of your employee benefits are included in your total rewards, what we in HR call total rewards. So that means that is your entire benefits package. So your total rewards encompasses your salary. It also encompasses all of the benefits that you get as an employee of that company. So if you don't take advantage of benefits, then you're kind of leaving part of your compensation package on the table. So that's one way to look at it. The other way is if you have a 401k available at your job, if your company matches, you always, there's some circumstances where maybe you really can't afford to, but most of the time you want to take advantage of that benefit up to the match. Okay. So that's what I was explaining to the guy. I was like, definitely invest in your 401k. A lot of the people that I know that are millionaires got there from their 401ks, honestly. And when you read about the millionaires next door, a lot of times they gain their riches from 401ks or IRAs or just investing for the long haul. So 401k is a great way to get into the market and do so with a pretty low barrier to entry, right? You can get your deductions, and so they just take it automatically out your check. You don't have to really think any extra about it. Just put your money in there, invest it, and it does its thing. So I always recommend, if people are wanting to get started in investing in the market, to go ahead and start with their 401k, right? And up to the match. So if your company doesn't match, the match works in a few different ways. And this is what I was explaining to him as well, because he was kind of confused about how matches work and, all that stuff. So usually you'll hear, and I'll just throw a example one out there. We'll match 50% up to 6% of your income. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that they will match 50 cents on every dollar that you put in, but only up to 6% of your annual income. So let's say, for instance, and I'm going to pull out my calculator here. Let's say that your annual income is, let's just use a whole number, $100,000, right? A year. So that means that up to $6,000, they will put in 50% of that. So if you put in $6,000, they'll put in $3,000 for the entire year. Okay. So that's what that means when it says 50% up to 6%, or sometimes you can see 100% up to 6%, or 50% up to 5%. That's what all of that means. It means that they will match the first percentage amount up to the second percentage amount, which is your annual income, a percentage of your annual income. So now that you know that, definitely look at your employee benefits and see where you stand, because every company is different. And I can't stress that enough. Don't think when you go and you're investing in your 401k in one company that it'll be the same exact thing at the next company, because honestly, I have never been at a company where it was exactly the same. Okay. And I've had quite a bit of jobs over the years. So definitely check over your employee benefits and see what you are offered. Now, once we get past the match, right, we also have to look at the vesting schedule. So what is vesting? Vesting is when a company says you have to be with us for X amount of years before what we put in is completely yours. So let's take the same example. We've put in $6,000 for the year. The company has put in $3,000 for the year. And let's say that the vesting schedule is 25% by year 3, 50% by year 5, and then 100% by year 6. And that's very dramatic, y'all, but I'm just trying to get an example out. Okay. So keep with me. If you leave the company before year 3, then you may not get access to that $3,000 that they put in, right? If you leave the company after year 3, you get access to 25% of the $3,000 that they put in. Now, mind you, the vesting schedule does not affect anything that you put in. Whatever you put in is yours to keep, okay? This only affects whatever the company has put in on your behalf. So also keep that in mind. They're not going to take your money, because that's another narrative I hear out there with people typically that want to sell you life insurance. But they'll say, oh, if you leave the company, they'll take your money. Well, really, honestly, if you look at the vesting schedule, you'll know when you should leave the company, you know, if you're planning on leaving, and how that would affect your retirement dollars. Now, they're not taking your money that you put in. They're taking their money that they put in. So it's kind of misleading when they say that, because it doesn't affect your money at all. They're not taking, let's say, 25% of your money that you put in. It's only what they match. So keep that in mind too. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to 401ks is when you leave a company, okay? Let's say you've been investing in a company, they have a 401k. When you leave a company, depending on what your income is, so I will say get with a financial professional to discuss your options in your specific case. But most of the time, it's more beneficial to roll it over into an IRA versus keeping it into that 401k. And the reason I say that is because when you're at a company, like I said, this is part of your benefits, right? And so they are taking the hit on fees for you. So once you leave the company, you no longer have that benefit. So guess what? Your fees may go up. So that means a portion of your investments, a bigger portion of your investments go to the manager of the 401k, right? Not the manager at the company, but where they house the 401k dollars. So when you leave the company, your management fees may go up. When you leave a company, also, the broader market, which you could find in the IRA, has more options than the workplace 401k. The workplace 401k, they choose what you can and cannot invest in. So that's why you only see, typically it's like target date funds or life cycle funds. And then you may see a few, other types of funds that you can sign up for, what have you, but your options are limited. When you go over to an IRA, which is an individual retirement account, you have access to the entire market. And so you can invest in whatever it is your heart desires. You're not limited to those options. Also, A lot of times people forget about their 401ks, honestly. And so if you leave the 401k at your previous employer, it may be way down the line and you're like, oh, I forgot I had a 401k over there. I get that all the time, where you forgot that you even had a 401k out there somewhere. And so that's why I say most of the time it's in your best interest to roll it over to a rollover IRA. Now, when you do that, and this could be a whole other episode, but I want to make sure I mention it here, you want to make sure that you do a direct transfer rollover. You do not want the type of rollover where they actually give you a check, and they count it as you cashing it out, because that also will hurt you, because then you'll be taxed on it. You'll be penalized because 9 times out of 10, you haven't met retirement age yet. And so you want to make sure you request a direct transfer rollover. Those are the key words. Okay. So you shouldn't get anything in your hand that you're not directly putting over into another account. Okay. So keep that in mind. So those are just some things about 401ks that I wanted to get out there, that I had the conversation about this morning, and I figured it would be helpful to get it out to a broader audience. If you have any questions about 401ks, I'll be more than happy to answer for you. Benefits are my jam, so please shoot those questions over. If you want a little one-on-one help, I also take one-on-one counseling clients. And if you need help with rolling over 401ks or finding 401ks, I have a resource that I'm going to put in the show notes as well that can help you do just that. I've had a couple of clients use them and they were satisfied with the ease of doing that process, and it was helpful for them. So I'll share that with you all as well. But in the meantime, in between time, I hope that cleared up some information about 401ks. And it is a great investment to use. Like I said, there's a lot of people that make their millions from 401ks. Of course, over time, we're talking a whole career's worth of putting in money, but it's a great benefit to have. And honestly, one that I truly missed with being an employee. As an entrepreneur, I do not have that luxury. There are ways that entrepreneurs can do that, but it's something that I'll go over in another episode because this one's getting a little too long. But I really miss that as a benefit. So if you do have access, please make sure that you're investing in your 401k up to the match. If you want to do anything over the match, you can do an IRA, you can do something different. It's completely up to you. Get with your financial professional, but that's just the route that I go. And this is not investment advice. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. So please do not say, well, Tiffany said I should not do my IRA So please do not say, Tiffany said I shouldn't invest in my 401k past the match, or I should do an IRA. Tiffany is just telling you the options that are out there, okay? Everybody's situation is different. And speaking of, that's where I was going with the 401k. Leaving it at your employer. If you are a high earner, it's best if you leave it, because then you can do a backdoor IRA later on. And I'll do another episode with that, but that's just a little tidbit. So if you make a lot of money, you might want to keep the 401k at whatever employer is at, because it may be more beneficial. So that's why I say personal finance is personal, because it just varies by the individual situation. Anywho, all right, y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.